目前成绩还不太理想，接下来的每一场比赛都证明自己的机会。
当老干爹的话，让我们打好自己就行。
克服了这里的搅晃，我已经期待了很久了。我想让他体会亏钱的滋味。
目前版本你也掏不动那几把剑嘛，所以你就老老实实玩什么石头人就行。
结果跳进来，又是一个非常漂亮的取样风暴。妹所开出了一个金身，但是从旁边吸血鬼也是进场，刀妹 Q 起来了，带走一个 double kill。
一直知道烧粉是一名很强的选手，但是我也不输于他。
他们战术很明显就是双辅助保烧粉，到时候会主要针对烧粉。
我有很多方法能练。
我认为烧粉各方面都比艾米强，不管老干爹怎么针对烧粉，我都可以帮他解围。
F6跟大龙都给你好，我只要赢就好。
比赛从来都只靠实力说话 ，Snake 的目标只有一个，那就是赢。
Cross Conference continues tonight with 3 more matches and 6 teams taking the dive into East versus West. We even take a quick trip up to Chongqing before returning to Shanghai later tonight. For the first set features LGD traveling west to take on Snake in the Chongqing Snake Pit. No adventures for our last 4 teams, however, as they will do battle live here in Shanghai, for we have 3 exciting matches today. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this afternoon's broadcast. I'm your host, Matthew Stewart. Joining me as one of the trusty brain smarts from our analyst team is going to be Barento Mohammed on the analyst desk today. So let's get right into it. We're going to start with the standings in the LPL at the moment, because not too much has changed after our first day back with cross-conference. Things are fairly similar to where we left off before the LPL left to bring home that Rift Rivals trophy. Rogue Warriors as well as EDG are still sitting at 5-1. RNG took an extra point for themselves yesterday, but IG and JDG still at 5-1 themselves. We saw BLG pick up a much-deserved win.
Yeah, you just have to have a refresher for the class for the audience, because coming back from Rift Rivals means that you forget about Jingdong. Remember, JDG 5-1. They're on par with the Rift Rivals representatives, so now we're going to be seeing them later on throughout the week, but it's fun to just be able to see how the teams who've been left behind are shaping up.
We'll be able to see more of those teams later on, but with BLG securing a much-needed win and RNG continuing dominance, let's see who our contenders for cross-conference will be here today. Later on tonight, in the Shanghai arena, will be Invictus Gaming taking on FunPlus Phoenix, as well as Suning Gaming taking on Rogue Warriors. But first up from Chongqing is going to be LGD traveling to take on Snake.
Yeah, I just want to see, of course, if you can hold it down. IG, Rogue Warriors coming back from Rift Rivals, how they're shaping up. I want to see how all those sets shape up.
Definitely be looking forward to the first set as well today, see if LGD or Snake have made any changes. And just a reminder to everyone watching back at home that the LPL split works like this. At first, in the first 3 weeks, we have a round of intra-conference play, where East will play against East and West will play against West. That will happen again throughout weeks 8 to 10. But right now, we are in cross-conference, where East will take on West once per game.
And we always do a fun little bit where we count up the wins between both of these conferences, because it always comes down to East Conference. You know, you always have to match the rest of the teams, because if you take losses, they pay doubly. You end up falling in terms of your playoff bracket if you're a team who's chasing for the 4th place position. If you're at the Western Conference, for example, if you were coming in an FPX last time around, if you take up the wins, then that's your shot of finding your way into the 4th place. Remember, in Spring Split, FPX could have done it, lost based off point difference, but they had a phenomenal cross-conference run.
I mean, it's great for the teams that are trying to get into playoffs, but even more crucial for the teams that are fighting for the top 2, top 3 spots, because buys are important moving into the summer playoffs, and the top 4 teams of the LPL who are just coming back from Rift Rivals will be looking to secure much-needed points. They will also face off against each other in our matches of the week for cross-conference. First up is going to be EDG taking on RNG tomorrow night, with RNG then taking on Rogue Warriors, IG taking on EDG, and then IG taking on Rogue Warriors later on in the splits.
And it's fun to track them coming back from Rift Rivals, but also there's history between these teams. EDG versus RNG was our Spring Split finals. IG versus EDG was our Summer Split semifinals, as long as RNG and like all of these teams have faced up against each other. You know that they have been marking this date on their calendar, so it's fair if you guys do the same.
They were also teammates heading into Rift Rivals and worked well together, still maintaining top spots in the league. But another team you have to watch out for is going to be Jingdong Gaming. They're still 5-1, had an impressive start to Summer Split, and they're looking to continue picking up points throughout cross-conference as well.
Yeah, it's real fun to see the growth of that team, especially since they've retained their core identity. They just have players that are performing incredibly well in Loken. Now that Loken has etched out that he is going to be their core AD carry, AD carry is a big point because he's just remaining on towards the Lucian, which is fun to see, that he's a core performer, he's their emotional performer, and that is just getting them wins.
He was also one of the players of the Rift from week 3 in the LPL from the side of JD, playing well in the bottom lane position, was crucial for their late playoff run during Spring Split. Was able to secure that as well. We're also going to be looking towards the difference in how teams play from the East and the West. There's a slight change in meta from those two different conferences, but it's not as drastic as what we saw during Rift Rivals, where different regions are playing differently.
It's always awkward when we see cross-conference play comes together because it is I would say, individual metas shaping up. In the Eastern Conference, you have the top teams you have to really play up against. Of course, Invictus Gaming and RNG, so you have to play towards strong AD carries. While you're in the Western Conference, there's a little bit more diversity in playing towards mages bot side. So it's fun now those get to clash because of the fact that we're in cross-conference play.
We're going to see more of those clashes today. We have 3 LPL matches, and the first of which is going to be Snake taking on LGD. Snake, they're one of the teams that we are looking forward to during cross-conference because they are one of those teams that are trying to shake up the meta and have their very own unique playstyle.
It's fun because first set happened in week 1 and we're like, that's boring. They didn't do anything. But then ever since that set, they went towards Maestro and Hudia, their double support and benching their AD carries. And since then, they've just gone all funneling all the damn time. And it's ridiculous to see it. It's fun because I want to show a stat to the audience out here where you see SOFM getting the full benefit of it. A lot of the stats coming from damage per minute, gold percentage, everything means he's the one netting those resources. And sure, it's fun to see that he's first in DPM, first in damage percentage, first in CS per minute. But what's incredible is the difference between number 1 and number 2. A lot of the times, Hacker's coming in as second place, but in damage per minute, 100 damage. Damage percentage, 10% damage difference between him and second place.
He's even got a little old love heart over the LPL logo. Snake's jungler is the man that has been receiving most of the funnel gold in their composition, unlike from what we see in other teams where they go towards their AD carry or potentially their mid laner who picks up the funnel gold. It's SOFM. He even has a large champion pool to boot, pulling out the Rengar, pulling out Irelia, even Jace in the jungle for these funnel compositions.
That's why funnel comps for Snake are so much more different than anywhere else. In the LCK, you see funneling towards AD carries, the Kai'Sa's coming through, the Xayah, but not for SOFM. You saw the most played AD carry that he would play is Graves. And then he tried to move towards a Kai'Sa, not something that he was comfortable with. So he actually predominantly goes towards bruisers in the jungle funneling comps. Last time we saw him play, it was in the Jace. So it's fun to see, but it means that they don't get the boost in the late game performance out of him with the AD carries. What they get is a stronger mid game is what they've been looking to aim for.
Yeah. But if there was gonna be a team in the LPL that tries to shake things up, it would definitely be Snake Esports. They're one of the innovating teams. If you think back a few splits ago, they were the team that was trying to innovate with split pushing as well as the lane swaps. Always trying to make sure a lane swap takes place in the map and trying to take advantage of that. When lane swaps were patched out and make sure that you could only go towards the bottom lane and going towards top side map was not as effective, they tried different strategies, but they've always had something in common, which has been there a little bit inconsistent, taking down EDG early during intra-conference and then dropping matches to teams like TOP.
There are two things that are tried and true for Snake. It's that they look forward compositionally, but they also have core problems that just don't go away. The main core problem for Snake is in individuals like SOFM that's just greedy. Last set we saw them go up against TOP where they got thrashed. It was because immediately 2 points come ahead for you, where he was playing Jace, he goes up to Zoe, 1v2 and then dies. Basically a mental boom in that situation. And then it was a dragon fight, which is a proper fight for Snake to take, but they just didn't have the members there because SOFM was taking mid lane at the same time. These are just core, common communication breakpoints for the team.
And I like that you said that Snake are a forward-thinking team, because that seems to be what they're doing with their lineup today as well. They're not going to be running the double support player in the bottom lane with Hudia as well as Maestro. They've actually taken out Hudia and they're putting in an AD carry main of Light.
Yeah, a marksman specialist. That's what people need to recognize, because for Snake, running double support means that you almost are certain that they're running a funneling composition. So while it's forward thinking for them, that narrows their comps. So now bringing in Light, perhaps he's played some mages, but now you can say that we have an AD carry that can play Malzahar. He's done it before. He can play Yasuo, so he can still play the other picks, but can play AD carries.
然后你 FPL 给我的情况呢是你别的也是我的。他们说想针对我，我想跟他们说，就是我有很多方法能给你们，不是要410这种。
Yeah, super. Mandarin pretty good right there.
That's
learning a little bit. We're talking about him being the man that goes towards the funnels. They brought in Light. You talked about how he could play mages in the bottom lane, could move towards AD carries. Makes sense, especially after Rift Rivals. We saw how the flash walls from the LMS were able to destroy funnel composition. They even tried to use the smite in the mid lane, which is becoming a lot more popular. Even BLG picking it up yesterday.
Yeah, there are a lot more anti-funneling compositions. In fact, there have been posts from the Riot developers that they are looking in the future patches of just trying to find ways to cut down the funnel comps. So it makes sense that Snake would see a lot of that and would adjust their lineup. Flandre in the top lane, SOF in the jungle, Gogo in the mid lane, and of course their bottom lane, Light and Maestro.
So no Hudia playing just yet, no Crystal playing either for Snake. We'll have to see how this composition does and what they try to do, because they're up against LGD, a team we haven't talked about just yet. Janu, Amy, Yuki, Y4 as well as PYL. So let's get into this team, because a lot of changes for LGD this split.
Yeah, Y4 coming in the bottom lane from RNG. We've seen him play for that team. Fantastic at Kalista, and since coming onto the LGD lineup has really rounded their bottom lane up well. I love the fact that he has a strong Swain as well, so there's still, I would say, the fact that he can move outwards in his compositions, so a lot of flexibility there. But Yuki has been a strong performer for the team. A real surprise, and even though we've been hearing since coming in that he was a prodigy in some instances, I didn't expect it. His first split was not that strong, but split 2, super good.
However, ever since I started working for a young man named Jake Spawn Tiberi, every single LPL analyst has at one stage told me LGD are looking good again. So when does this stop? When does LGD are looking good turn out to be, you know, they're actually just not very good right now?
You have to find at least some semblance of strong consistency in the lineup, because there are strong players. Junu's been a strong player. Yuki's shown himself to be a strong player, but there needs to be some form of team play coming through. The recent games have been promising, so I want to see if that's going to remain going forward.
Well, hopefully it can be, because LGD need to be thrown a bone at some point. Hopefully cross-conference is the time for them to try and pick up some points. Let's see if it's going to be with their first match against Snake. Let's get on to Summoner's Rift.
请重庆的召唤师们继续带给死内人力量，雄起！
Thanks, Fish. We're taking a quick detour before we get to Summoner's Rift here at the caster desk, where I'm Dom Romer. This is Indiana Frost here in black, and we're about to get into this game because, again, it's LGD versus Snake, the previously known as Sleeping Dragon fighting the, herd of snakes at this point? Because we can't call them one collective snake.
No, we definitely can, but they're eating their own head right now.
I see. So the Ouroboros snake.
Yep.
Ah, well, hopefully they'll get the chance to recover and show us a little bit more, because as we just heard on the desk, Snake are wild, wacky, zany fun. This is a team that has embraced the new meta in 8.11, 8.13. They're willing to try funnel. They're willing to try mage bottoms. Has it worked for them?
I'm going to say a soft no.
Oh,
now, right now,
soft no?
A soft no. Now,
Okay.
right now in the standing, Snake aren't sitting where they want to. If you just go back a single split, they were contesting for first in regular domestic split. Now, the curse of Snake is that they do really well in the regular split. They go into playoffs and everything falls apart. It feels like things are starting to fall apart a little bit before then, but you are correct. They are on the forefront of the meta. They are the OG Fnatic. They decided that they were going to bench the ADC from week 1 onwards, and we haven't seen him until today. Now, Light is starting, and yes, he is supposedly a prodigy of the marksman, but how many prodigy marksmen do we really have in this league? And the only time that we've really seen Light, he was playing a mage. So I agree with Raz's assessment on the desk that while this could indicate to LGD and to the viewers that maybe we'll see more of a standard composition from Snake, especially because of the success that we saw ADCs have at Rift Rivals, but I actually think it's going to be the opposite. I think this is still a 4-1 protect the SRFM. I think Light is actually going to be put on Swain duty.
I mean, we did just hear SFM say against LGD, if I take your Raptors, the rest of your jungle is mine as well. We can do more than play a 4-1 if you want to try and target me out. Is that really the case?
I'm just saying, if your statement that's supposed to make you look like a badass is you can have Raptors and Baron, it's fine, we'll get the win. You're not going to win if you give them Baron.
Include the Baron in that as well.
He just like gave it up. He's like, oh, it's fine. When SOFM gets the Baron, I'm still going to win the game. Amy, you're not going to win the game if you give up Baron.
Yeah, well, hopefully Amy can recover. Of course, LGD, they've been on an upswing with their win just 2 weeks ago before Rift Rivals. We saw that through Amy and Yuki in the mid lane. Amy playing through Yuki. We saw Yuki play that Zoe and Aurelia and was able to take an advantage even in their loss against Billy Gaming. Is that another strategy they could try to utilize if they're up against a funnel composition from Snake?
It's really hard to measure type of competition because BLG is not in form right now. So while I do want to not jump aboard the LGD hype train, but compliments are deserved. The team is finding what works for them. Obviously, they recognize that there was a problem. They blew up the roster. They've been putting it back together. So there is faith in LGD that things aren't quite working for them, and they're trying to find the solution. Now, if that solution's in Yuki, time will tell. He is a very gifted mechanical player, especially on a pick like the Aurelia, but it feels like Aurelia just has way too many counters for that to be a viable option that they go to time and time again, especially as they start facing stronger teams like Snake.
And already, Snake have identified that, banning away both that Zoe and Aurelia against Yuki. You can see the laughs and smiles as he's about to get into this next phase of bans. Again, Aatrox, Graves, and Grag is taken away from the far side.
What I find most interesting about the first 3 bans that came out of Snake, however, is the fact that Taliyah was banned from the blue side. Now, yesterday in the EULCS as well as the LCK, we saw 100% Taliyah being banned. That fits into the strategy, but it's almost always entirely from red side. So it tells me, what are Snake going to prioritize? Normally, it would be SOFM's champion pool, but as of recent, their last 2 best of 3s, they've been prioritizing Guoguo's champion. And if you're really going to hone in on a weakness for Snake, I definitely think it's in Guoguo. His inability to perform on the picks like the Vladimir as well as the Swain in terms of consistency have been the make or break for Snake being 3-3 rather than climbing up the standings.
With this Swain, though, we do see a little bit of flexibility as to where that goes. That could go to Light, that could go to Guoguo. We could even see that go to Flandre in the top lane. So we'll see where that ends up if Guoguo gets something a bit more safe and standard as, wow, Kindred and Tom Kench locked up for LGD.
But it goes back to this idea that Snake are in a position right now where they need to sacrifice one of the strongest junglers in the game in the Taliyah pick on one of the strongest junglers in the league in SOFM to prioritize Guoguo's limited effective champion pool, especially when Amy's going to throw the score gauntlet down and grab hold of the Kindred, which we saw to great success at Rift Rivals.
We'll have to see if Amy can track down SOFM. Looks like there's going to be plenty of invading and skirmishing, and Sejuani is the pickup for SOFM, unless she's been sneakily played in the top lane, mid lane, or support or something.
Well, it's not Europe, so we probably won't see her in the support position. But yeah, I expect that Sejuani will go in the hands of SOFM, so already a more standardized composition than we're used to seeing from them. The best thing about Sejuani is her ability to skirmish around river and contest for the Scuttle Crab. And people always talk about how this is, the funnel comp meta, things like that, kind of the wacky and crazy. To me, it's still about access to the river. And the funnel composition also gives you access to river because you have 2 people sitting in the mid lane, which means you have a numbers advantage if you rotate top or bottom.
Now with that Braum, though, we're not seeing quite the makings of a funnel composition for Snake. They might just be going for something a bit more standard with a mage bottom and let Guoguo take that comfort in the mid lane. But Mundo is the answer for LGD.
And it could still very well be Swain in the mid lane, especially with Sejuani Swain. You have a ton of gank pressure there. So again, this could be an exact standard composition, and Snake are just waiting to reveal their hands and acquiring more information from LGD. Now with the Mundo pickup, I have a feeling it's going to be 2 leverage bans at Flandre to try to make sure that he gets a good matchup.
Well, we do see one Yasuo being banned away from Snake by LGD, so we'll see what Flandre decides to take, as he does see that Mundo. Darius still could be an option, plenty of execution there.
It's also kind of this game of chicken with LGD, where when you have a Mundo, especially how I read the composition, is that they're daring you to play an ADC. Because the thing about Mundo is he's just going to rock back into the back line, stand on your ADC, and unless there's absorbent amounts of peel, your ADC is going to get screwed. So normally at this point you would have to diverge your options and look for a more traditional bruiser composition to deal with the Mundo running at your face. So it feels like LGD have kind of thrown it down and said, Snake, are you going to play an ADC or are you going to play that Swain in the bot lane? Because right now we have the Mundo and you need to pick.
And it should be mentioned, Vladimir is still available, so we could be seeing a double mage composition out of Snake if they wanted to put light on something a little more bulky, a little bit tankier. But a very early Orianna lock-in for Yuki here without quite knowing what Snake's composition is, saving that last pick for Y4, it looks like.
Just a comfort pick for Yuki, recognizing that there's still a lot of flexible potential from Snake, and then also saving counter pick what looks like for Y4.
The bottom lane. Alrighty, let's see what Snake decide to throw down. Lucian, that's going to be locked in. And now to round out the composition, we'll see where that Swain ends up going. If it goes to Guo or Flander or even Light, we've seen Lucian's played in the mid lane before, but as we already mentioned, that Darius is still open.
And this is what the ban that I was expecting to be taking away. I expected that Genu would try to get the Darius ban so you could have the Mundo matchup, but instead they're going to give it to Flandre. So already you have a Lucian Braum in the bot lane from Light on a very standard champion. You have a Swain in the mid lane, and then Darius possibly for top lane. Snake are looking great in all of their lanes, or at least having windows for their matchups, which means that all eyes are then on SOFM. It's not a funnel composition, but it's still rounded around creating space for the Sejuani, letting him get access into the river, and then making use of the hard CC to snowball a traditional game of League.
Yeah, and this is something that Snake have struggled with over the past few days, their inability to control their side waves and have those strong side lanes, heck, even have a strong mid lane when they are running that funnel composition, because we've seen even mistakes in that regard. And it looks like we're running into a few difficulties in that pick and ban. Hopefully we'll get that resolved as quick as we can, and we can get back through and see what that composition is going to be. Because right now, LGD, they don't seem to be counter-picking a strategy so much as picking what's comfortable. And I think we do have to commend UDJ, the new coach for LGD, for taking the team in this direction, especially if this is a team that's looking for stability as opposed to growth.
You're right. It's not just the fact that they've blown up the roster, but they are experimenting with the coaching staff and trying to find a solution that works for them. And I do agree. Usually when you have a team, if I'm going in as a coach to a brand new team that has been struggling, sitting low on the rankings, the first thing that you want to identify are what your comfort champion pools are. And it almost doesn't matter what's in meta, because you want to eliminate as many variables as possible. You just want to put your players on what they know how to play, what they're comfortable playing, and very easy to execute compositions, because the first thing that you need to build on in League of Legends is the communication and the synergy with the pieces. It is so much better if 5 players make the wrong decision at the wrong time than 2 players make the correct decision while the other 3 make the other decision. So if you're going to move together.
Yeah, and of course that's always the question that we see for LPL teams, is even for some of our best teams, if they make that wrong choice, they commit as one. And it just looks so much better. I think that could be perhaps why we see RNG finally succeeding, because not only do they have such spectacular individual talent, but they're moving as a cohesive unit. 4-man diving 2 turrets deep, and they don't even care.
And it's one of the big growing pains with Snake currently. It used to be that they were moving so cohesively, having Guogo take over in the mid lane position. Suddenly Snake's team fighting just got so much better, and it was their ability to play around him that he seemed to fill this responsibility in team fights as zone control, allowing SOFM and Flandre to dive those backlines without any inhibitions. But right now it seems like that synergy, that communication, that cohesive movement has fallen to the wayside. Guogo seems very lost in these team fights, not recognizing who he should be zoning, where he should be layering his damage, while SOFM and Flandre continue to dive in separate backlines, and there's no glue holding them together.
And it's so interesting that you mentioned that, because Guogo is actually a constant in between the Snake of Spring Split and Summer Split. The things that changed, obviously the meta, but Crystal was the one who was pulled away for the double support to try to suit that meta. Perhaps Crystal could have been some of that connective tissue that the team was missing, and in trying to bring in his replacement Light, they're looking for that connective tissue again.
I mean, it's really hard to say what type of intangibles that players bring, but you see it all the time, not just in the LPL, but in the NALCS, the EULCS, where these players that a lot of the community look at and say, why do you still have this player on your roster? What are you doing? Well, internally, you still have that player on your roster because of the intangible morale, the shot calling, the focus that those players make. You know, it could be that the fact that Crystal was changed to a support, to an ADC, went on playing at the Bruisers, that they were trying to fit him into the roster because they needed whatever his voice or whatever his persona brought to that roster outside just his raw ability to press buttons.
Maybe it was just that raw Draven personality, the fact that he's got the buzz cuts and the glasses, and then he just runs in saying, we're going to take the fight, and that was all Snake needed. And then not having that voice perhaps could be what limited them, because again, we commended Snake's team fighting for their ability to attack from 3 separate directions at the same time. That's not something that just happens without words being shared amongst everyone beforehand. Somebody's got to call those shots, and we're looking to see if perhaps Light can step in on your screen right here and fill that role for Snake in the set against LGD. Again, a quick update for the folks at home. We are running into some technical difficulties with Champ Select. We're looking into it as quick as we can, and then we're going to get right into this game.
And I do want to have a conversation because you bring up a really good point about how Snake used to be so good at attacking from multiple directions. You know, they weren't a fight front to back type of team. They were a fight from the flanks, fight from behind, attack from every direction type of team. And I think right now the meta actually hurts them in that identity, because right now they're playing so many funnel compositions that you're forced to fight front to back. If all of your gold, all of your power, and all of your experience is on one core member, you must fight entirely around them. Whereas before, with Snake's identity, is they had such strong players in Flandre on the top side, in their jungler and SOFM, and then Guoglo was kind of the babysitter in front of everything, making sure that when his backline got dove, that he was standing next to them. So by moving the gold around and limiting some of the gold and resources that Flandre is getting, limiting some of the gold and resources that Guoglo are getting, suddenly Snake aren't able to play their same style, but the team fights look just as chaotic, but without strong points.
And this is where we see Snake start to struggle against some of the more mechanically intensive teams, because it often devolves into these smaller 2 versus 2 and 3 versus 3 skirmishes that we like to call a collective team fight as a grand sum, but that's never really the case for Snake. They don't team fight unless they want to team fight. That being said, on the other side, LGD, the way that they found success in their set just last week, or sorry, 2 weeks ago before Rift Rivals, was through a pick-based composition, using PYL to set up aggressive vision, then allowing Amy and Yuki to find targets. Now, if Snake tried to try that scattered composition again against a pick style from LGD, that could be a scary proposition. If you're ever caught out looking for a ward, trying to get behind the enemy, all it takes is one Sleepy Trouble bubble.
I mean, ultimately, pick compositions are one of the easiest compositions to run in League of Legends because, like you're saying, it just relies so much on your vision control and then your fundamentals of understanding. You walk into an area, you sweep out all the vision behind you, and then you just sit with all of your hard CC, especially when you have non-committal CC, because then you're just playing Yahtzee.
Yeah.
You roll the dice, you like what you get, and then you grab hold of it. There's no reason to overcommit, show your hand, and then walk yourself into a trap. So, again, for coaches that are working with newer teams that are just trying to build up fundamentals, pick compositions are usually always a go-to. Just stack all of the hard CC that you can, because it's just so much easier to execute.
And it's so funny that we have to call LGD a new team. I mean, this is an organization that has been around for years at this point. It's got to be said, 2015, this was a team that we sent to Worlds, and we've got PYL still on that roster. You've got Jinnu, the spectacular solo queue top laner. You've got Amy, who's got so much experience, and then the newcomer of Yuki and Y4, who sat behind Uzi and Abel. And you wonder, why is this team struggling? Well, it's because they are a new team. They're looking for that coordination, that synergy. So what better way to start than step 1?
I was going to say, I'm really tired of trying to bring that corpse back to life.
Exactly.
Clear!
We don't bring it back to life. We point at it as a warning for all of the other teams. Just
you see that dead horse over there? Don't be that.
It's like the Lion King. It's like, you see that dark area in 2015? We don't talk about that.
But the thing is people will always bring up 2015 in today's context with the new rise of the LPL, especially after the success of MSI and MSI, All-Stars, and Rift Rivals. People are like, yeah, but
Can the LPL compete with the LCK?
But remember what happened in 2015? Yeah, I do remember what happened in 2015. We won MSI, and then we had one bad tournament. In the whole collective of the LPL, we've had 2 tournament misses. We had 2015 Worlds, which was a massive collapse from all 3 teams, and then we had Team WE in 2017 MSI, where they were taken down by G2 in the semifinals. Now, you could say, but what about 2016 MSI, where RNG didn't make the finals? Well, RNG took 1 game off the people who won the finals, and CLG got 3-0'd because they got an easier side of the bracket. I'm not rewriting history. I'm just making facts
here. Yeah, you guys can't see it, but she is barreling down the camera right now. You may not see her on your screen, but she is looking into your soul.
But the point is that 2015 was an outlier, and NA and EU need to get over themselves. I'm sorry. The LPL has not collapsed holistically, and over the course of history, it has been the 2nd strongest region, and guess what? Now it's the best in the world.
Yeah, and we just can't wait to show it when we get to finals. That being said, we've still got to actually make it to that point. And again, we would like to apologize for the technical delay.
No, get in my soapbox.
Exactly. The Darius was invalid. Every single pick up to the Lucian is locked in, including those bans. And uh-oh, now we've got headsets off. Maybe a quick bathroom run before the players
oh no, the giggles.
get onto stage. They got the giggles too. Maybe they heard what you were saying. They were like, yeah, we are the best. Let's take a fiver.
Stretch it, walk it out, boys. Oh, I guess it's coming back to us.
So, yes, let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about this because, again, Snake versus LGD is coming at us. We're going to get into those bans, pick some bans as soon as the players get back into their seats, and we get that all set up for everyone once again. But still, we do have to talk about these teams trying to find momentum because Snake, they're 3-3 right now. This is a team that they've always been the dark horse. They have never been the favorites. And now they're trying to find stability so that they aren't the dark horse again. Is there ever a chance that we see them try to ascend past this?
I mean, technically over in their Western Conference, they have a good shot at making it into playoffs. I mean, Snake are pretty much not locked for playoffs right now, but we expect them to go in playoffs. Yes. The issue is that they never make it past 4th or 5th place. They never make a deep run. Now, last split, I think they could have had the potential to do that if they were on the other side of the bracket. But they ran into RNG, who made the miracle run basically in second rotation. So RNG went from Team WE to Snake Esports to Invictus Gaming to Edward Gaming to MSI Champions. Now, if Snake had just been a bit more consistent in the regular split, maybe grabbed hold of the other side of the bracket, they would have been better. Except, wait, they were in first place, and they got punished by running into RNG. So just a facet of our LPL system.
The hilarious bracket juggling that we get to see, trying to dodge other teams.
How stacked. I'm motioning over to the Eastern Conference. We have these banners along the walls, and it's just the fact that the Eastern Conference has RNG, Invictus Gaming, and JD Gaming in it.
Yeah. Big names that hopefully Snake will have to take down if they want to try to advance to playoffs because, again, this is a team that has been looking at Worlds, that was denied a Worlds spot by IMA. This is a team that, again, for those of you who don't know Snake, they always have been the woulda, coulda, shoulda. Always right on the cusp, but never quite there. Well, now they've taken a step back from the cusp, so we're still looking to see if they can grow. The way that they have to do that, though, they've brought Light on. SOFM seems like he's stepping back onto the Sejuani in pick and ban for this game, so it could be a bit of a strategy for them to go back to that old comfort style.
And that was kind of my narrative coming into today, was the questions of, are Snake going to continue to play the gold funnel composition? Because unlike in the LCK, which really prioritized that type of style over Blue Side and Xayah and Rakan, Snake have thrown all of that out the window. You said it yourself during Champion Select. They're not paying attention so much to their side lanes, and they're trying to run gold funnel with multiple different champions. Rengar, Jace, Aurelia, Kaisa, like all of these crazy combinations, and sometimes it works and sometimes it's very cool, but it just tells me that it's more so about SOFM feeling that I have this opportunity where I can grab all the resources, because that's the other thing. If you look at a lot of the gold funnel compositions that are successful in Korea, which I do believe that the LCK are the best at playing gold funnel, it's a lot of the power going to the jungler usually, or no, excuse me, going to either the mid laner or the ADC, and it's the jungler who takes on that secondary support role where, you know, Peanut's running around on Braum or something like that. SOFM is not running around on Braum. No. He's trying to be the hard carry, but he doesn't play those positions normally, so he's trying to get over his ingrained muscle memory of, I can die here as long as I take down X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, SOFM, you cannot die here because you are everything.
And that's one of the excellent questions that we bring up by looking at the meta changes in 8.11 and 8.13. Because so much flexibility is now an option for these teams, we see people get to play, people like Doinby get to play champions like Kled in the mid lane, and I think Zyrene said it best in the breakdown. Doinby doesn't look like a mid laner playing Kled. He looks like a Kled player who's getting to play mid lane in these sorts of matchups. So that sort of comfort is why we saw Reckless step away from Fnatic. The supposed, if you actually play it perfectly, it can become something incredible. We're just not seeing that yet. Do you think there's a world in which we do, given enough time? Specialized players for specific champions roles?
For majority of the League of Legends player base, on the professional level, yes. Because the fact of the matter is that someone like Faker, someone like Uzi are considered the greatest of all time because of their ability to be meta-resistant, that they can play everything to the highest level. And now you're starting to see that in some of the young members on Griffin, which it doesn't matter what they're playing, what type of style it is, they can just grab any type of champion, know any type of matchup, and play it to the best of its ability. Whereas majority of our player base and then majority of our professionals cannot do that. They have signature champions.
Specialized.
Exactly. So I think it's always going to go into that, but ultimately that means that the top 1% will always just be the people who can play everything. So it's a question of, do you want to be good or do you want to be the best?
And that's something that we have to see these teams ask themselves. Do you start with stability or do you try to chase it down by specializing? It seems as though Snake tried to start off the split with a specialized funnel style composition to set up SOFM, but again, he was generalized instead of specialized, and I think that's why we saw them lose a few of their matches. On the other side, though, it looks like LGD is starting to try and take a similar approach. They're also taking a generalized, we want to play comfort, we want to play what we are good at, and then just become very, very good at that. That being said, that was the style that WE took to Worlds in 2017, and we all remember how that went.
Well, semifinals.
Yeah, but not finals.
But the semifinals.
But not finals. And also look at WE now. We got to ask ourselves what is going on with that team. But again, that's a whole conversation for a whole nother day, as looks like all of our players have made their way back into their seats. Bathroom break successful. Congratulations, guys. Now let's get ready to get
Do you guys have to like pat themselves on the back after they're like, oh man, it was close, but we got it in.
We take all the victories, big or small, in the LPL.
This is what happens at the urinals. People are just high-fiving.
Oh my god. Oh boy. Frosk is just making awkward eye contact at Raz on the
awkward
analyst
eye
desk
contact.
right now.
I just asserted my dominance. I just alphaed him.
We could call it that. We could call it that. But still, we're trying to get back into this pick and ban to keep everyone updated. The pick and ban is the same up until that Lucian, so the only thing that is free to change is the 5th pick for Snake, that Darius, and of course LGD getting their own counter pick. That being said, that was saved for Y4 for some very interesting reason that I'm sure we're going to find out.
I mean, he's facing a Lucian and a Braum lane, so unless...
Ezreal, perhaps.
Unless they just massively, colossally misstep this one, it has a lot of kill pressure there, especially at level 2 to 3. As everyone remembers, Braum and Lucian for the longest time were one of the most dominant 2v2 lanes. Although I believe that they might be playing a... No, you're right. They had counterpick to the ADC, so we haven't seen what Y4 is going to grab.
He's got the safety of like an Ezreal if he wanted to actually play. And again, that Vladimir is still open.
Oh no, that would feel real bad.
Sure, you get pushed in, but then anytime they dive, you just duck into pool.
Oh, do you really want to get pushed in when SOFM is the enemy jungler, especially when Amy's like, oh yeah, you can have my Raptors and my Baron.
Amy's on Kindred. He's going to be trying to track that.
Yeah, he's not going to do anything if he has a Vladimir in the bottom lane.
That's always the question that we have to ask our junglers in the LPL.
I'm glad I have this blood stain down here. Too bad it's not alive.
Oh boy, would love to gank bottom, and they're dead. That's always the question that we ask.
All the hearts you see of Vladimir, and he's dead.
Our junglers in the LPL love making, I'm going to call them unique choices in ganking. I think Swift and SOFM are some of the most egregious.
My favorite, see,
and how they pick and
here's
choose.
The thing though, you start with interesting. Like that's, when a caster's like, yes, very interesting, it's always a negative connotation. But you went under to unique. So I feel like the hierarchy is interesting, unique, and then you immediately went to egregious. Like the drop off here is quite significant.
Yes. Well, we're back into that pick and ban again. We're going to be looking to that Lucian for light, and then from there, things will actually get the chance to flex. But that's something I want to keep track of in this game, because Amy and SOFM are both known for interesting decision-making in terms of how they assist their lane and how they group up with their supports. Amy and PYL specifically come to mind, but SOFM, he kind of does his own thing from time to time.
It frankly looks like a breakdown of communication. There's a good documentary about SOFM where he's fully aware of what his flaws are, and his primary flaw is that he needs to have himself put ahead before he feels comfortable getting his laners ahead. Now, as he spends more time in the league, as he matures as a player, that has started to shift in terms of its dynamic. And then this meta rolled around, and I feel like everything got reset.
And then he decided, I will play whatever I desire, and Jax is the pickup. That's the champion.
Now, I want everyone to open up the client and see how close Darius is to Jax.
Chinese client, when you've got top laners selected, I'm pretty sure they must be side by side. When you got them right over the next two. Yeah, it's not like they've never done this before.
I'm just saying, if he flashes into a wall, we already have showcase from Champion Select that the mechanical abilities were not going to be too great.
And look at that Indiana Frosker in black. That is a Talon with Smite in the mid lane. Now, this isn't entirely unheard of, but what is unheard of is Y4, the Prodigy AD carry, playing Orianna bottom into Lucian Braum.
So it feels like they're playing around Y4's champion pool, a mage that he would be comfortable doing. Orianna is going to do a very similar thing that Talia or Zoe would do in the bot lane, where you just have a pushing lane. So you see someone like Lucian and Braum, they have a lot of kill pressure, a lot of ability to proc the CC and get extra damage. Now you're dealing with an Orianna wave clear, an Orianna shield, and a Tahm Kench. Are you ever going to kill them, Dom?
You're certainly going to try if you're Snake at the very least.
Should absolutely be no until Orianna gets enough points where she can start pushing the wave pretty freely, and then it's about getting the Talon down into the bottom lane. Like you're saying, Talon Smite is rampaging through Korean solo queue. We're starting to see it crop up more competitively on a global scale, so no surprises that it's coming out here today.
LGD seems like they're trying to take a step forward and follow the adaptations in the meta, getting that Smite talent in the mid lane to try and dive that bottom. Of course, they will have the assistance of that Kindred and the Tahm Kench Orianna that we saw on that bottom half. But the big question that I want to take a look at then is that top lane and see how that shakes out, because Jinwoo versus Flandre, that's kind of quietly flown under the radar for a lot of our discussion. We should be expecting some big things out of these guys.
But the unfortunate thing is about the matchup. It's Mundo versus Jax. So the responsibility that these two top laners have to their teams are completely different. We expect the Jax, again, binary champion like Aatrox, that he wants to get ahead, that he wants to have the split pushing ability, does have a bit more flexibility in terms of team fighting than someone like old Aatrox did, because he does have, I'm not going to say consistent CC, but he's a bit more obnoxious, but he's still nothing comparatively to a fed Mundo who's just going to rock into the back lane and be like, what you gonna do about it?
Relentlessly pursue away from the enemy champion. Let's just hope to see that Executioner's Calling as quick as we can to try and keep that Mundo on the ground, because again, that's Gogo on that Swain in the mid lane, so it seems like Snake might have learned their lesson, perhaps, and are taking themselves some safe standard lane.
And it tells me that Snake had a good read on what LGD were going to do. Again, the Talon's double smite is not unheard of. We're seeing it everywhere, and they have a Sejuani and a Swain. The kill pressure and gank ease on this lane, especially if Swain gets shoved in, is quite strong. And it's about locking down Yuki and making sure that he can't get to the bottom lane to assist the Orianna and the Tahm Kench as they get more levels, as they get more ability to push the lane in and set up possible dives.
Of course, that being said, when LGD saw success in their only series win against BLG, it was through Yuki pushing in that mid lane and finding kills with the assistance of Amy, who is now on a Kindred, recently buffed and ready to do business against Snake. Could this strategy once again be successful? There's a lot on line for both of these teams as they try to get themselves onto the Rift. Flandre?
No, you don't understand. I wanted Darius. This is not.
No, that's not the champion. Alrighty, well, we'll be getting on the Rift shortly, I imagine.
I'd like a real weapon, please.
Imagine if I had a real champion in that top lane. He will be going up against Jinwoo. We'll see as we get onto the Rift.
Jinwoo just cool as a cucumber right now.
It seems like that's always been the case for Jinwoo. He's one of the players who really just keeps his calm under all situations. Even when LGD is kind of falling apart around him, he's the personification of, this is fine. He sits there, he does his job top lane.
I'd like to believe, because the thing is our Korean imports, especially someone like Jinwoo, who has really made his career over in the LPL or has built up quite a significant reputation for him. I like to pretend that our Korean imports sit back in their Chinese teams, and when things start to fall apart and the Chinese players start yelling at them, they just respond, I'm sorry, I don't speak that. I can't understand you right now.
Wo bu ming bai, don't understand. Dubachi, sorry.
Wobujida.
Wobujida, I don't know. Yes, the classic selective translations. I believe I'm very familiar with those here in the broadcast arena in Shanghai.
We speak the same language,
We
Dom,
do.
and I don't even, sometimes we're just like, I don't understand.
Yeah. Oh, man. But sometimes we get it. Sometimes we're able to communicate without saying words.
The language of memes.
You don't classify memes as words in this scenario?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
That would be like classifying Twitch chat as a language. Yes, on my resume, I speak English, sarcasm, and Twitch chat.
Yes. Well, I'm actually proficient in Reddit as well.
Oh, God.
That's a good one to take on to the next job interview.
That's my facial expression right now.
That's SOFM, yeah. I want to say he's in the zone, but He's thinking about his bed right now, it looks like. Going home, taking a nap, having himself another day. Because again, this is LGD coming to the Snake Pit to try and challenge Snake in their home arena. And again, it is very hot in China right now, in Chongqing and Shanghai. So you can see the players are starting to get those sweat on.
Yeah, it was quite brutal actually walking
really
to work
was.
here.
Yeah.
Sun was out in full
Jeans
force.
was not the correct idea.
I don't own any shorts though.
Me either. That's not true. I have one pair of shorts, and they don't fit anymore. I've been carrying them around for 3 years.
You know, usually as it is on broadcast, we wear like our broadcast dress stuff on top, and then everyone will either have like basketball shorts on or like sweats on, something like that. Raz over there tried to take his splice sweats onto a broadcast at one point.
Yep. We call that the David Freak Turley. I think he was the pioneer of that.
The basketball
he's got
shorts?
Business on top, and then basketball shorts and sandals on the bottom.
Oh, wow, you went sandals too?
He does it.
Freak
You've
strikes
worked
me
with him,
as
right?
the man who would wear socks with sandals as well.
I don't think I've seen that, but now that you mention it, I can see it in my head. My mind's eye just completes the picture for me.
He's strapped into his feet as well as into his hairline.
God. Oh boy. And then he's just got his thumbs under the elastic straps that keep him there.
I love David.
Good bloke. Good bloke. Oh boy. But still, again, we're trying to make sure that we've got this game all set and ready. This music has got me so amped. I feel like we're planning to fight the final boss, and we've just agreed, like, okay, this is the plan we're gonna take to fight the big bad villain.
No, this is that moment where you're
And
literally
we're walking out the door.
in the boss fight. You've pressed pause because you've died here 6 times, and you now quickly have the guide on as you're trying to figure out, okay,
You're
what's
like,
my
wait,
game
how do
plan here?
How do I activate limit break again? That was like L, R, and Q or something.
Only if you're playing Irvine.
That's whoosh.
That is
right
a deep
over.
joke,
Yeah.
but I think 2 people in Twitch chat probably got it.
Oh boy. That being said, though, to help us get ready for this game, our analysts are going to take it away from here.
You're damn right we will.
It's my turn to talk. It's not your turn to talk. You're damn right we will, Dom. We will get into that as soon as we possibly can. It's going to be band pick that's coming up on your screen shortly. Raz, tell me about these picks that have come in.
2 things immediately that strikes my eye when it comes to what Snake have for me. Well, it's the standardness of it. I remember when we started off top of show and said that Snake are going to be coming in with funneling, and of course they kick it off with bringing in light. So what's the champion that SOFN is going to play? Sejuani, it's something he's gone to quite frequently in the past, and so he can play towards an engaging aspect, start team fights a little bit more clearly, but then they also had a Jax. So they have 2 options in this game. It's either they look for team fights and look for an opportunity for Jax to come in flank, or obviously the natural thing is just to have Jax come in split. So it's cool that the smack talking that they had to LGD coming into the today's show is just going to be backed up by the fact that top lane is going to mean a lot. And Jinu versus Flandre is definitely going to be a matchup to look for, even if Jinu went the boring route of the Mundo pick.
How is that boring? Dr. Mundo's a great champion.
I don't want to hear that, Fish.
Why is Dr. Mundo boring?
Do you want me to throw a cleaver at your face?
You don't have a cleaver. That would be quite interesting if you did, and that makes Dr. Mundo even more exciting to me, which you're getting further and further away from the point. Why is he boring? What's so boring about
cleavers. But, I mean, the identity of Dr. Mundo, if you want me to tell everybody in the audience, he's great in team fights because he's just supposed to soak up damage. How is soaking up damage exciting in any way, shape, or form? I think it creates exciting gameplay because you're going to have to fight him in team fights.
But you're also going to have to fight him in late.
That is fun to you?
He has to fight a Jax.
The Jax is a fun part. So I think this is cool from Snake's point of view. From Snake's point of view, that they can play around having side lane pressure, even putting Lucian in the side lanes whenever possible. So they have cool side lane pressure. The only worry that I have is wave clear if they ever lose pressure from LGD. And then we go to LGD, and where did the Orianna come from? So, like, I love Talon. We've seen this come from the LCK. We've seen this actually played in Rift Rivals as well.
LMS as well played it.
Exactly. So there's just the Smite Talon. You just go towards your Raptors. The jungler no longer owns Raptors, so that just means Kindred has more incentive to walk into the enemy jungle and start taking a few camps. And so Talon's going to be buffed up. He's going to be looking a lot more often outside of lane. That's going to be cool to see Kindred and Talon move alongside each other. But then there's the Orianna. which we haven't seen in so long. And recently got a buff. So 8.13, buff to Orianna from 9 seconds to 7 seconds on her command dissonance, which is her W, which means it's a lot more. You're a lot more easily able to just skirmish within the laning phase. You max your Q anyways, so that just doesn't. That means that you don't have to max W at all for the cooldown. You're just going to be feeling happy of having the damage in your Q.
Okay, but we've seen this. We've seen some of these champions before. We've seen Kindred in the jungle already. This split, not so much in the LPL, but we've seen it in Rift Rivals heavily. We've also seen Talon being more popular in the mid lane. We saw BLG pick it up with Smite. We haven't seen too much for Orianna at all globally. What is LGD's composition trying to do, Res?
Mid, early game. Early game is incredibly important. Orianna and Tahm Kench should have early game pressure in the bottom side of the map, while the Kindred and Talon have to work alongside each other. They'll have pressure mid lane. They'll have pressure in the 2v2 if they ever find the enemy jungle as well. It just comes down to how they execute it, because ultimately they want to find themselves on the bottom side of the map and hoping that Mundo ends up going for a TP play as well. So LGD has to move quickly. They have to move early. Level 6 is a nice window that they can push on.
Okay, so we'll be looking towards the level 6 mark coming out from LGD. We'll have to see if Kindred's able to work well with Talon, if he picks up Smite, especially in the mid lane. Rusty was talking about on the desk yesterday. Talon used to have a lot of mana problems. Going for the Hunter's Talisman, however, picking up Smite means he can just disappear into the jungle, which his parkour allows him to do, regenerate all of his mana, and farm some raptors while he's at it. But that seems to be an objective that potentially the jungle will be fighting over. We'll see if LGD can actually work together with this unique composition, but I've been told we are going to potentially get back into this match, so send it back to the Muppets at the casting desk.
I will mup you, fish. Calling us Muppets. We're getting into game. LGD versus Snake seems to be loading, so we have been told, so we are ready to get back into this. And again, as the casters were just talking about, that mid lane looks to be a lot of... And Yuki's lied down. We were making progress, we were getting close, and then we lost it.
It's always an adventure whenever we travel over to Chongqing. Just a good times all around.
Classic, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's a real bonding moment.
It is.
I get to spend a lot of time talking to you.
Just hang out. How have you been?
I've been good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. It's still super hot though. How's the aircon working for you?
Yeah, our aircon guy came while I was home, told us that he wasn't home.
Okay.
And
wait,
left me a note on the door.
You were home.
Yep.
He came and then
told
said nobody's home.
I wasn't home.
Wait, did he verbally speak to you and say nobody's home?
No, he left me a note, and my aircon's still not fixed. And so I bought a fan, and I just lay on my bed like...
Because that's the solution when you've got 32 degrees. Hey, we're in game! Yeah. Jai-O! We're getting into game! We have made it.
It's hot.
Oh, man. I can go the distance.
I can go the distance.
That's not Hercules.
I'll be on my way. I can go the distance.
That's the one. To get onto Summoner's Rift. And a minute in already. Looks like we've got that Mundo top.
Just cleanse the palate?
Yeah, cleanse the palate.
Okay,
the
this
lips,
is where
the
we're
teeth,
at.
The tip of the tongue, the tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips.
The
We're all
hard
warmed
palate,
up. We're
the
good.
soft palate. Okay,
you
so
do the never mind. We'll get into that later.
It's a standard composition coming out of Snake, which is super peculiar because if you haven't been watching Snake and you haven't been watching the LPL, these guys never do that. But it's still all about SOFM. So we talked about how having the Swain, having the Sejuani, there is a lot of gank pressure there, and already you can see that Snake wants to scout out for SOFM. He's getting a hard leash bottom from Braum and Lucian to help springboard him through his jungle, and this should be about very quick pathing, grabbing his buffs, and then trying to prioritize putting this Talon down so Talon doesn't get unlocked to empower other lanes.
And look at how Yuki is starting on the far side with the quick invade check we saw out of Guoguo and Flandre. They were looking for the Raptors start, but in fact he starts off at that Wolves. Like you said though, Amy pathing forward will be spotted on that pixel brush. Excuse me, had a burp coming.
You just committed to it.
And now Scuttle Crab is spawning, so he's going to take that as well.
Didn't even reach for a cough, but you're just like, it's coming out.
I was in there. Oh boy, we're 2 minutes into the game. We can't lose it yet.
We're 45 minutes into this series. It's just 2 minutes into the game, Tom.
Okay, There we go. Now Light is going to get this minion wave as it pushes in. Looks like we see a double Scuttle Crab start, and they are passing both of these Scuttles over to Amy very early on.
Yeah, just trying to slingshot, and of course, Kindred having...
Ooh, getting the mark.
Exactly, the marks on the Scuttle Crab, which I just feel like is such an insane buff to Kindred when it all works out in terms of the RNG. So I do like the strategy from LGD to recognize that it's about prioritizing the Talon Kindred matchup. They want to shut down SOFM. They want to snowball the experience in the gold lead, be able to invade his jungle and take what they want. Whereas SOFM is about prioritizing his lanes, setting up ganks, and utilizing the hard CC of Sejuani.
And that's what we see right now. Jinnu is shoved in up top.
He's going for Krugs. I know you're getting really excited that he's
Look,
gonna...
he's got red buff. He can heal up. He just smite. Look at that health that he gets back from those Krugs.
I mean, if Mundo wants to take a step off the tower and step two, maybe it gives him a little cheeky, but otherwise...
I'm just saying it's Jinnu. Crazier things have happened. As Yuki, you can see his damage percent is actually remarkably high, along with that damage per minute for his team.
And there have been good things from Yuki. Now, what's interesting is I don't feel like LG are recognizing, hey, Yuki's a mid laner in the making. We're going to play around him, and that's where we're going to find their success. But it's simply that Amy has been left out to dry so often that he just grabbed hold of the new kid, and he's like, you're with me.
You will become a star. I will make you look good. Yuki just said, all right.
Because one of the biggest complaints that we've had of LGD is that while Amy and PYL are the longest standing members of this roster right now, they hardly ever work together. They almost never go on warding missions together. They never spend any time together. And so Amy, unfortunately, really gets left out to dry, and PYL gets caught out on warding missions.
Yeah, and so it does have to be said that Scuttle Crab start that we saw in the bottom lane out of Amy, PYL was the one who actually stepped up and started that after Y4 shoved in bottom.
He also assisted him on the Krug take by moving over and warding. So already, good things from LGD. I know, wards.
Why? Crazy. I can't believe it. We get to see some vision in advance. Though that being said, that means we could have less skirmishing if they have vision of the enemy team and they choose not to go in. So maybe you win some, you lose some.
I mean, you say that as you... Oh, no. Oh no.
It had to have happened. We all saw it coming. At the moment he steps forward and spots out that Sejuani, Smite was even used early by SOFM. That Talon started to step up into the vision. Just taking a look right there. Nobody's calling for a ref on the Snake side, so that's the LGD side. Couldn't have been Yuki because he was looking for a gank. He was looking for a kill.
Oh. Oh, dear.
And hand up. Hopefully we'll get this technical issue resolved as quickly as we can.
We really appreciate you guys sticking around with us. Welcome to the LPL podcast, episode 14.
Yeah.
Featuring Dom and Frost
LPL
Kieran.
podcast, yeah.
Live from Chongqing.
Yes. Live from the arena in Chongqing. It's LPL Live. I would love to have a sitcom show about the LPL. I feel like we could actually make that
You are
work
actually the sitcom caster
so
of
well.
League of Legends.
Yes, I am a sitcom in real life.
But I think you're a strong Joey. Like, I don't think you're a Ross.
You would give me Joey?
How you doing?
Not Chandler? I feel like I've been called Chandler many more times than I've been called Joey.
You know he's missing half of his ring finger?
What?
Yep.
Chandler?
Yep.
That's okay. I'll stick with Joey then.
Yep.
Okay.
It's that important, I guess.
Is that... Why is this coming up?
I just know a lot of random
Fun
facts
facts
about a lot of things.
All right, Phoebe.
You can ask me random facts about the LPL.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about fun facts about the LPL. We've got that Talon with Smite, I believe. I'm actually not 100% certain if he is going to go for that jungle item. I did hear, I believe it was Rusty and Raz talking about the gold to damage efficiency of jungle items being really high.
Yeah, the reality is right now is that the jungle items are just the most efficient. So go figure that the competitive scene figures out how to break them. And then Rusty was also talking about how Talon really used to suffer from mana issues, and then those can help be alleviated. And that's why Talon is starting to rise back up into prevalence. But it's also just his insane mobility, his ability to have massive power spikes on one item and two items, and these games end very quickly. There's just a whole slew of reasons why we get to see hardcore parkour all over the Rift map.
It's because he's so fun. So a quick update on the status of the pause.
I'm ready.
It's a doozy. It's a good one. Are you ready?
Okay.
It's a good one.
Yep.
A player complained that a spotlight was too bright in their face, in their face place. The face place on the screen.
To be fair,
which is totally fair, because like you want to have the optimal playing environment.
Yeah, you know when you're trying to play in like your living room and the glare is on your big screen TV and you're playing Dark Souls and you're like, I know that there's something scary here, but I just can't see
it. Yeah, the light.
Anything in my...
That's why you see the lights being flicked on and off right now.
You're taping up bed shirts. Like, just gotta cover this window. Your mom comes home. She's like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you living your life like this?
But actually, though, I do have a poster hanging in front of my lamp because it is directly behind the line of sight of my monitor.
We've all had to deal with it.
We've all had to deal with it. So hopefully we can get that fixed. Hi, hello there. Hi.
Our producer's never like, and camera coming to you.
Hopefully we can get that light picked up. We can actually, here, we'll show you what it looks like when our lights are off. And you can't see anything. That's no fun. You got to be able to see clearly both us and your screen when you're playing games.
I actually have this on my resume that I'm also the light handler of the
professional light button pusher. It's quick. It's on and off. It's fast. It's fun.
Thank you to production who set this up for us.
It is actually really convenient. But again,
stop talking.
The importance of having an appropriate setup is something that has to be recommended. Again, we hear so many different stories about how players like to get comfortable. I don't have my shoes on right now because you really got to be comfortable when you're playing League. You got to be comfortable while you're casting. If you're going to perform at maximum performance capacity, you have to make sure you're in the zone.
Here's the thing, though.
Don't disagree with me on this.
Do not be fooled. I'm not the person who baits and ramps up Dom. I just sit back and I watch how far he's going to go.
You don't even have to rev. You just don't even set it down. You just watch.
You're like that prime experiment where if someone stops talking, you must feel the need to continue to fill the air. And so just all of the things that push out of your mouth.
Yeah. It's quite spectacular. So what have you got then? I've said my bit. I've contributed my stretch of the. All right, we've got the analysts ready to break down some more of that game, guys. It's all yours. I think it'll get.
There was a water bottle on the table. I was gonna throw it off the desk, but apparently I'm not allowed to do that. We don't know what's going on, Raz. It's been an hour. We're about, what, 6 minutes into the match?
Yeah, a little bit of it.
What's happened so far, Raz?
So far, Talon has taken Wolf Camp.
There we go.
There we have it. That's the con. I was actually, before we got into the game, I was one thing I wanted to say, and thank God I didn't say it because I would have been proven wrong immediately, is that having a Smite mid laner, primarily wouldn't want to go to a Wolf Camp just because of how far off it is from your mid lane. But as long as you have the mid lane pushed out, you can do it. He found that opening, and I wasn't wrong because I didn't second guess him. So God bless Raz, and he was all right. So ultimately, it's nice to see this coming in from Talon. He just gets a lot of bonus experience, much faster towards the level 6 mark. So I want to see what he is willing to do once he ends up getting to level 6 mark.
Raz,
what's up?
Flip-flopping. There is something wrong with this desk today. Those notes
Stop
are
throwing
relevant as well. We just want a clean, empty desk because this is the first time I've seen you stick to your guns and not flip-flop over something. Raz, are you turning over a new page, new leaf?
I mean, I was technically flip-flopping. I mean, that's just the case, though. So, that's facts. I would have backed you up if you were factual. Unfortunately, you were not.
Here you go, Raz. You need a laptop because yours is now off the desk.
No, I don't.
So, what's going on here?
Stop bringing things on and off the desk, why don't you?
All right, so let's bring this back. LGD,
please.
LGD going up against Snake. We haven't seen too much just yet. Just a couple of small early trades here and there. A camp or two being taken away. The picks are on your screens for this match, and unfortunately, we are going through some technical difficulties, not only in the games itself, but also with our shoutcaster's Dom. His shoe was flying everywhere. The lights went on and off. Nocturne was ganking them at one point. We'll fix that as soon as we possibly can. Someone page Pulse. We need him at the casting desk.
That being said,
that being said,
the picks immediately. I mentioned the 2 champions from LGD that they do have to watch out for. So the Talon was one thing, being able to take his own camps. Remember, Kindred is another point that is purely being used as an aggressive pick here. That actually wants to invade a lot more often into Sejuani. That doesn't happen. Kindred is starved. I don't know how else to put it. He's a champion that needs the gold because he has a lot.
You think he's already starved?
No, I mean he got warded out. That's the one thing that's issue. Like he's in the top 7 of the map and he wants to invade, but then there's already a ward on top of his head, so he's gonna have problems.
So my question then is he already starved out of the match? Is there no way for Kindred to actually find a way back? Because it's just very early. Nothing too much.
No, he's not starved out. I'm just saying that's the worst case scenario if he gets completely warded. If Sejuani can hide from him until level 6, because Sejuani is a little bit more easily to use at level 6. That's the one worry that I have. But ultimately, I mean, he's fine. once he invades on blue side, he's gonna see maybe a Gromp up and available.
Okay.
He might be able to take it, but he needs to. His sole purpose right now is just to find the enemy jungler.
So we'll have to see if he can find those enemy junglers later in the match. I've been told that we're going straight back to the casters. Let's send it over to them.
And we're back in the game. Lighting issue has been resolved. And we are back onto the Rift. 5 minutes into this game 1. And we're back. Looks like Yuki does have his smite. SOFM, his is ready. And it appears that he was able to take that Raptor camp. Amy on the invade, looking for a few more hunt stacked.
And so everything
we're back.
Looks... we're back, Dom.
Yes, we're back.
Right now, the most important thing is the fact that Amy has spent a significant amount of time in SOFM's jungle. Also, before we went into the pause, we did see that Yuki stepped up and was also contesting, so they have made good on their word. SOFM has not created a massive CS advantage for himself. In fact, he's actually fallen into a deficit, and look right now, you have 3 red members on the top side of his map, and he's late to this rotation.
Yeah, that's a big wave against Flandre. Amy steps up and takes aggro. He takes stun and dies immediately. You hate to see that happen, though they do get the kill.
Ooh! He did not expect that type of burst damage.
He did not.
And this is kind of the moral of the story between Snake and LGD. It's that where you have these shining bright moments, like you're starting to have more faith in Yuki, in Jinnu, as well as on Snake's side in Flandre and SOFM, you then also have these instances where individual decision-making does fall down, and it leads to moments like that, where that didn't need to be a one-for-one trade. So good on Flandre for making it so when he was put in a pretty precarious situation, but Amy was not expecting that one, too.
Yeah, Flandre is now walking through the mid lane to make his way back top, as there was a swap. Gorgo's headed top, and SOFM is sitting happily in the jungle of LGD. And look who's heading back to top lane. It's Jinnu. And that is a minion wave building up, but they decide to let it go and instead just utilize that pressure that they got. But here that play is again.
And why they're camping, or why Snake are camping the red side jungle, is a byproduct from this. The fact that Flandre plays the trade correctly, he makes sure that he trades 1-for-1, and then suddenly the Kindred is dead, needs to take 45 seconds to respawn, get back on the map, and so then Snake assert their dominance over the red buff, which you can see on your map they haven't taken, but they have set up the vision, and they've done a great job. Ooh, hold on.
Flash from Maestro.
And they've done a great job micromanaging their lane assignments, moving Swain into the top side, putting Swain back into the mid lane, and not wasting any of the free gold on the map. So continuing to get stronger in their solo lanes.
But look at what Amy's doing. He's level 5 against SOFM's level 4. He decides not even to contest that red buff, as he knows that the stun proc from SOFM, along with the burst from that smite, makes it real tough to try and steal that camp.
He also didn't have vision on where Maestro had disappeared to. You can see that there's control vision set up behind the tower to secure SOFM's Krugs, and Maestro had cleverly taken a step back into Fog of War and had started to path upwards. So Amy not trying to press his luck.
Now Yuki with that Assassin's Path ready. He's got himself a Tiamat for faster clear and is ducking back into the jungle. He could be hunting down SOFM, places a ward, and goes over the wall into the blue buff. Guoguo is there too, but there's no way you can catch that Talon without some hard CC, though he's still just walking forward. SOFM, you are a bold man. He's got Guoguo behind him, but still.
Exactly, and they see where Mundo is, so they know that Flandre's not moving in. Worst case scenario, Amy is also in the area, but Swain is incredibly powerful right now, and the bigger issue is that Yuki didn't have control over the mid lane, so I like the fact that Yuki is scouring for offensive or aggressive vision in SOFM's jungle. They've done a consistent job of making sure that they're tracking him at every corner, but now I need LGD to do something with that information, which looks like it might be that dive bottom.
Already, they've got themselves that Kindred on the bottom side, just leaping back over the wall and scouting around for vision, trying to decide which side to focus on, as that's even minion dematerializer used on the cannon.
Here we go. This is exactly what their composition wants. We talked about how it's about unlocking talent, about utilizing the Kindred ultimate so you can make successful dives, and with the changes to Orianna, Raz talked on the desk about her ability to trade more effectively because now she has a lower cooldown on the W, but she still has great wave clear. She fits the exact same profile that a Zoe or a Talia would in this position, so it's about shoving it in, making sure that you have the threat of the dive, and between Kindred and Talon, as long as they're there, this is the only response that Snake have.
Calling onto the minion wave to clear it out. Another minion dematerializer is used You can see Yuki has returned to the mid lane to catch it out, and it looks like LGD are about to focus down and take first brick against Snake.
Excellent play from LGD. This is what Rogue Warriors really struggled to do when they faced KT at Rift Rivals. It was a very similar composition, slightly different champions, but this was the ultimate win condition, and it was because KT, UCal in particular, did so well in tracking Doingy's talent in the mid lane. Right now, Wogo has not had that same response. Meanwhile,
they're diving onto Jinnu. That's the stopwatch through the Glacial Storm. Healing up, Flandre takes a turret hit and goes low and is forced to back away. Jinnu, without even burning flash, survives the dive as Amy needs to finish off this dragon. Early smite. There he goes.
So LGD are unpunished across the entire map. Jinnu is able to absorb the only play that Snake had available. Amy gets the dragon, they get the tower. Orianna was the person who took the tower down, now sitting on a Luden's Echo. Everything is going right for LGD.
Starting to open up. We were just commending Snake for having those stronger side lanes, something that they needed when they were running the funnel compositions unsuccessfully.
But it's about defining where and why they're stronger. It's because they had kill pressure as long as SOFM was utilized correctly. I feel like majority of this game has been built on the back of Amy and Yuki and recognizing this is our game plan. Shut down SOFM, control him. If you control the head of the snake, it can't bite you, and that starts in the jungle.
Especially if that snake has already got its tail in its mouth, referring, of course, to the Ouroboros that Snake have become. Now, we do see a recall. PYL is getting behind the turret of Flandre. That means bottom tier 1 is undefended for the time being. It's a bit aggressive from PYL as Y4 is trying to push that top tier 1, but again, LGD already have the tempo set.
And it's trading up, because you're talking about that tempo. It's not only trading 1-for-1 tower in the outer, but it's also then grabbing the Rift Herald, which usually assumes that you're going to have a charge on the mid lane in this case. So I still love the pace that LGD are setting, and now it's a question of, you know, what can Snake grab here to get their foot back into it? And I would say that they need to start making earlier recalls and heading towards the Rift Herald, because they can't give that away for free. But Amy had actually already started it. I'm a little bit curious about this decision-making here to go for the Gromp.
It's the Hunt stack.
Yeah, but
that puts him at 4. Yeah, he's now at 4 stacks, so 2 more.
Still the Herald.
And he's could be backing up towards it right now, as we did see the late recall out of Light and Maestro.
But the problem is that Yuki has also made his recall. You can see Talon running down mid lane. This offers a good 30 to 45 second window where Snake could actually mount a front to contest for this Herald. So you are correct. It was Amy waiting, what is more valuable to me? Having this stack on Kindred or acquiring the Rift Herald? If they lose it, and that Herald then turns the game around because Snake can use it to crack the mid lane tower and then pivot around it to get Baron control, then you lost the game right there.
Yeah. And now we know the decision-making and, of course, the weight that goes into that. That being said, Yuki looks like he's already trying to control vision around this area. They've already got Scuttle Crab. They've got a handful of wards. And now Yuki is heading top with Y4 and PYL in the mid lane. Jinnu already set with teleport. So it might not be the classic Rift Herald look that we're seeing out of LGD, taking it off the back of the tempo play, but they do still have control over that side of the map.
It's also the difference in how they want to take it. They do not want this to be a full 5-on-5 fight because that's where Snake's composition is really strong. They want exactly this. They want to try to grab pressure in their side lanes, split up Snake's composition, and then use one of or two of their pieces to take the Rift Herald without drawing all of Snake's ire to that focus point.
If you actually take a look at your minimap, look who's trekking up. Jinnu is on his way down into this mid lane. LGD might be trying to set up for this as if it were a Baron, bringing all 5. Now, Flandre has teleport, doesn't have the Triforce finish just yet, and SOFM, he's starting to step forward. Just in case, he's got that smite ready, early smite, but it is picked up. LGD, quick and clean, take the rare Rift Herald.
And Snake basically pressed tab. They look at their items and they said, okay, are we going to try to fight this? SOFM maybe peeking in his head, looking for some sort of opportunity. But ultimately, if you look at Flandre's items, he doesn't have access to his Trinity Force. And whereas Mundo has access to a lot of MR, even though it's not a completed item. So they didn't want to take the TP. They didn't want to try to go for the 5v5. It just was too close to a 50-50 for them, and they prioritized again. If Amy prioritized the stack over the Herald, Snake prioritized the gold over the Herald. Or the lane gold for Jax over Herald.
And what's that? An LPL team not taking a 50-50? I've never seen that before in the history of the LPL. As the wave crashes in, Snake are going to try to even that up. Blade of the Ruined King finally finished off for Light. Flandre also now finishing off his Triforce. We can see the Cinder Hulk for SOFM. We're starting to hit these item breakpoints for Snake. They were just about 60 seconds too late from the advantage LGD were able to take through that early laning phase and setting the tempo by taking those early turrets.
But now one of the kill shots needs to be set up for LGD, and this Herald has to count. Doesn't necessarily have to drop on mid lane tower, although it being under half health.
Ooh, Shockwave. And more damage onto Maestro. Yuki tosses out the rake for a bit more love.
They actually just need a couple more chips on this mid lane tower, and then Shelly can do the rest of the work for them.
Amy is sitting on the side. SOFM hasn't been spotted. There goes the Herald spawn. Nobody can get into range or have the stun, but here's the charge.
And look at Mundo. Mundo made his back, grabbed his chain vest, so now has both resistances to him, and here comes Shelly.
Mid-tier 1, broken. LGD. They've followed steps A, B, and C successfully, and they might even get a second charge. Yeah, looks like it's going to slam in as SOFM tries to catch a bit of a greedy recall. Yuki gets pulled out by the Never Move, sidesteps, and escapes those visions of Empire. Doesn't even have to burn any summoner spells. A little bit dicey there, but LGD playing a simple, smart macro game against Snake with this strategy, and it's working out.
But it's also the easiest point in the game to play this macro strategy. Although, hold on, this could get interesting. Of course, there is a ward on the tip of that, so they can see what Maestro is doing.
Just outside of range of that control ward.
But back to my point, what I was going to say is it's quite systematic to play League of Legends within the outer towers. Everyone kind of knows the steps that you play. Okay,
the first thing you do to end the game.
Exactly. You take the first tower, and then usually you take the first dragon, then you swap to Australian lanes, you take that tower, you grab Rift Herald, the Rift Heralds use mid lane. But now at this point, this is where things start to fall apart, because this is the harder macro game to play about how you're going to move your vision line, start creeping up, controlling your side waves, making sure that you have multiple pressure points, and start moving into these inner structures. And this is where LGD typically fall apart, that Snake could really bite back because of the nature of their composition. They love the team fights. They have so much CC, so much pick potential. But LGD have this great mobility and this ability with Kindred and Tahm Kench to absorb a lot of the initial engage tools from Snake. So they have the execution tools, they just need to execute correctly.
And as we'd already mentioned, some items have now been completed for Snake. They are ready for a 5v5 at this dragon. It is only an ocean though, as Junu steps forward, sees it get taken, and Snake will back away out of the pit. They don't want to risk it. Sorry, LGD doesn't want to risk taking a fight against a powered up Snake. They need to control their side lanes, though.
Yeah, inside track onto this mid lane, especially when Talon and Orianna are standing next to each other, it's going to be a very easy push. And this is what I'm talking about, the mobility of this composition. Tahm Kench, Talon, even Mundo to an extent. Their ability to play multiple side lanes and to constantly keep Snake split up.
Now we're starting to see the map get split up a little more. Junu heads back bottom. Yuki taking away every camp he can to deny SOFM. It's already a 25 CS difference between those junglers. Even CS between top, mid, and bottom. It's okay. It's only an 800 range. It happens to the best of us. Sometimes you just do a backflip off the wall and walk around.
He's just tired. He just couldn't.
I think the worst part about that whole thing is that it also puts that part of the wall on cooldown, so you can't try again. So you have to walk around.
Have you ever watched someone race over hurdles and just eat it over one?
And then you have to get up and keep going.
No, then you have to get up and fix the hurdle.
That's how I got the scar on my knee, hurdling.
Not the one on your face?
Oh, jeez. Love you too, Frosk. Love you too. Ay, ay, ay. Why don't I'm gonna ice this wound real quick, check out if there are any burn centers nearby. Why don't you take it away? Tell me what's happening on in this game.
What's happening on this game is that LGD are looking for the pick, and they may have found it.
Yeah, Amy's going real deep. The early cleanse, and he's on top of the Lamb's Breast. Bit Maestro steps up, the heal, and the knock-up. He is dead. PYL's in the back with Y4, though. Good shockwave finds two. Flash from SOFM. Flandre over the wall. He's looking for a chance to leap back over. Y4 hops away, but Flandre gets back in. Y4 goes low. Guo finishes off the kill. Meanwhile, Yuki was able to get an assassination onto Light as PYL flashes and looks to escape, gets out of range of the demonic ascension.
Now, while I said that LG were looking for a pick, the reality of the situation is that they should not have been looking for it. Remember that their composition thrives when they utilize their mobility, they split up the map, and Snake cannot 5-man stack. Now, they did get the teleport for their work. Snake were forced to TP, I believe, on Guoguo's Swain, but ultimately they collapsed, they used their superior team fighting composition, and they just tore LGD a new one.
Yuki, just steps up. Doesn't even have to sidestep. Walks out and allows red buff and the Nakshan Diplomacy bleed to finish him off.
But now you have a Talon who is sitting 2-0. So again, stop grouping up. Stop being overzealous and a bit Rambo with this. Just play your side lanes, move your vision up, and have Tahm Kench or your shot caller in PYL move between your two side lanes.
Well, there isn't big incentive for them to do that just yet. The next neutral objective to spawn is Baron in 50 seconds, and nobody really wants to rush that down unless your name is TOP or Dan Gaming. but now we're starting to see Yuki head back towards that top lane. He's going to have his flash in about the next 3 or 4 minutes, and Jinu still looking for his own, as he does have teleport on that bottom side of the map. So LGD looking for those side lanes, but they're playing it slow in the event that SOFM, this guy on your screen, starts to hunt for a pick of his own.
I mean, I still feel that it feels like we're playing it slow simply because the Baron hasn't spawned yet, because there's no incentive for Snake to push out into enemy territory when the waves are shoving into them. But otherwise, you can see that LGD are still pushing the pace of the game. The fact that they're constantly having the waves funneled in, that they're making these very quick rotations, and that they're finding this chip damage on the inner structures when applicable.
They're even backing away before Snake get a chance to collapse and take another fight. There's a lot of AoE and some very scary team fight out of that Snake comp. They're able to stack up. But Flandre, he's doing the same thing, and he's doing it a lot more effectively in this mid lane. PYL with the deep Abyssal Voyage to take the safe path in the mid lane is able to get Y4 there in time to defend it.
Yeah, I suspected that Flandre would have some sort of security blanket on the top of him. LGD don't have the greatest vision denial on the top side of the map. You can see that they're actually moving into the area to take care of that now, but the Baron has spawned, so things should be getting a lot easier for LGD to play around the map now that they have this big focal point that Snake must respect.
And that's what Snake are doing by keeping their top side jungle clear. Flandre doesn't have his own teleport, or sorry, doesn't have his own flash. It's about set to match the timer of Jinu's, but both of those top laners have teleports, so they're happy to trade one-on-one on the bottom side. Well, SOFM tries to catch up to Amy in terms of those CS, now level 11 to level 10.
But we're coming on to the point of the game where Snake are going to have to fall back to what made them strong back in spring. You know, they threw out the playbook. They said, no more about these funnel compositions, no more shenanigans, no more crazy stuff. We've got light, it's not crystal, but this should be the same old successful Snake that we saw really make a resurgence into spring. So all eyes now need to be on these team fights and how Snake are executing on the team fights.
And whether or not LGD will be able to successfully avoid them by setting up and playing around those side lanes, which is a difficult strategy for a team that's struggling with communication.
Or if they do decide to go toe-to-toe with Snake and look for the 5v5, they still have things like the Orianna Shockwave, like the Tahm Kench Devour, and like the Kindred Ultimate. So again, I love it when compositions have so much wiggle room into how they approach a situation, because then it showcases the creativity of both of the teams, and really showcases the strength of the LPL. We've always been known for our team fighting, but you know, it's one thing to say, this region is good at team fighting. It's another to break down, okay, what about this region's mechanics in team fighting make them good at it? It's our ability to find flanks, where we're placing and layering our CC, how we're doing our zone control, and then just the sick raw mechanics of our individual players.
There's plenty of opportunity for that skill expression in this game with some very high skill champions out of LGD, but same out of Snake on the far side. They're still playing it nice and slow. The Ouroboros lying in wait for LGD to give them the opportunity. SOFM steps up, sees PYL over the wall. He is so confident. And if ever there's a player that we need to watch in this game, it's how SOFM positions in these team fights and how he sets up for his team.
I mean, the one thing that LGD really don't have is hard CC, so SOFM will feel confident even though he didn't have access to his flash. It's just about to come off of cooldown, but here comes the trigger.
SOFM actually heading bottom. There are pings onto it right now. No vision out of Snake, but they just sense that something is wrong. I believe that Visions of Empire should have spotted out Amy as Y4 drops the dissonance slow. Maestro stepping up with SOFM.
And this is what I'm talking about. Again, it's the fact that Y4 understands his responsibility is to zone. So he's away from the Baron pit trying to slow Snake into this.
And now that's a teleport. SOFM is low. That's a culling as Light and Gorgo are able to get in. Demonic Ascension. PYL picks it up, but SOFM has died. Jinu steps up. Yuki's on the hunt. He leaps in. Looking for Light. Gets the rake over the wall, but is stunned and followed by Flandre. Flandre, though, is split off, leaving Gorgo all by his lonesome. He goes golden, setting up a proper zone. He's going to detonate, though. Will he be able to back out of this as Jinu is trying to chase it around the never move as Flandre comes in from the side? It was a front to back, but somehow Snake were able to find a flank and they turn it into an ace, completely killing LGD.
And that is the successful execution from Spring Snake that we wanted to see in this game. It's that classic attack from every angle. Hard engage, disengage, look for the flank, find it. And it was Flandre who finished and delivered the killing blow on an LGD Baron.
And now Snake will turn onto that same Baron themselves and finish it off much faster than that Kindred and Mundo combo could have wanted. And suddenly, despite being down, despite losing all of those turrets and losing all of that map pressure, all it takes was that one team fight. LGD get baited in and they get bit.
And again, my theory is that the actual current meta was bad for Snake because it meant that when SOFM went down, everything went down for him. What Snake thrive in is the chaos. They love fighting these 2v2s, these 3v3s. They separate the fight and then they execute on it. All eyes really on Flandre. I do want to give credit to Y4. He did an excellent job forcing SOFM out, even killing him, and then it looks good for LG at this point until they lose track of what this Jax is doing.
Stepping around the side, uses Leap Strike to get over the wall. Spotted out by a control ward, but then the Leap Strike cooldown. He just finds that unprotected, squishing Amy.
And it just feels like a miscommunication. You saw Y4 actually place that control ward on the top side of the screen over the wall. So at least one member of LGD was trying to track where Flandre was in this fight, but PYL just had no idea.
Yeah, in the moment, not able to find it, using the late Devour on Amy. Try and keep him up, but now that's Flandre with Baron. That split pushing Jax making the sound that we all love to hear and love to hate.
And it's also the fact that he got multiple kills, so they may get Flandre here, but at what cost?
Yeah, they're
if
bringing
they
the whole
even
family.
him.
That's a teleport. He's leaping away. All 4 members. The teleport is canceled. Another leap strike to escape. Flash.
Oh, no.
Amy misses. That's the briefcase. Rake is providing so much. Dodging the true damage. Finally dies, but he's taken 2 turrets in the meanwhile. Guoguo is pushing bottom while Light and SOFM are setting up mid.
And there is always the possibility that instead of taking the back here, that they could rotate down to the Swain. I think that they want to take the back and spend some of this gold, but yeah, you lose Flandre, but you do break that mid tower. I'm gonna call worth.
Yeah, at this point, 8 kills to 4, but 2,500 gold in favor of Snake. They've still got that Baron for a solid 3 waves as they make their way back onto the map. And look at that gold, 11,000 for Flandre, 10,000 for Light. Close to even in that bottom lane, even close to even in the mid lane. But that Jax is real big.
And I feel like the story of this game really has been returning to your roots. We're seeing comfort picks come out of LGD. They're not really experimenting with the meta. Yeah, we do have the Smite talent in the mid lane, but we're starting to see it crop up all over solo queue. It fits in Yuki's wheelhouse. We understand that he is a potential power point that Amy is going to give more resources into, and maybe he'll be the next God V for LGD, but it's a little bit too soon to tell.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's just, take a deep breath. We're back in cross-conference, reset everything, and just play to us. Don't worry about what the enemy team is doing. Just worry about what we're doing.
And that seems to be working out for them as Snake not trying to be the dog pile, not trying to be the funnel, just being snakes. Looking for flanks from multiple directions. As LGD, they're trying to do something similar by setting up Yuki in that mid lane. Y4 stepping in, playing a mage rather successfully in this first game. 0-2-1, though he's doing work. He's landing shockwaves. He's prepping the waves that he needs to. But it's the total collective team of LGD that needs to respect the total collective of Snake.
Yeah, I've actually thought that Y4 has done decently well in a lot of these fights. You can see that he is trying to communicate with his team. He had great zone control over that Baron, tried to set up LGD for a lot of success, and it was just multiple systems failing that eventually led to the collapse.
Multiple failures down the line, as we like to say. And the tier 2 will be broken. Baron buff will fade off, and now Y4 and Talon, that Orianna and Yuki in the mid lane are able to clear those waves out okay, but look at how dark the map for Snake has become, or sorry, for LGD. They've only just got that ward behind that wolf pit, and then a few more on their top side of the jungle. And Snake are just laying in wait.
I feel like a big issue is that PYL is quite poor with his back timers. He's not refreshing his Sightstone as much as he should be. You can look into his items right now and see that he's only got 1 ward charge available, and Snake have just done such a great job suffocating a lot of the vision and denying it out. And you'll constantly see this from PYL, where it feels that either LGD are playing at a 4v5, or PYL is caught out, or there's no vision on the map, and you must then go back and track, when are Amy and PYL backing? Is it when the team has an acceptable moment where they're not losing any pressure or tempo on the map to do so? Are they consistently late to team fights or consistently late to setting up objectives? And if that's the case, where all of these things are yes, then it just means that your support, you're not backing in the correct windows. And that has been a massive flaw of PYL for a very long time, and this is how it showcases itself on the game.
Yeah, and this is what we see now. He was able to take a successful back just a moment ago, but Snake are aggressively combating that vision. It's not just a one and done, I'm going to refuel and refill up those wards. It's a constant battle against the opposing support and jungler. And right now, Snake are trying to keep that battle in their favor, though we do see a few sneaky wards setting up a nice defensive line just behind the river for LGD, so that gives them a bit more freedom to defend, but that's not what this composition wants to be doing. They want to be running the side lanes. They want to get that talent out and assassinating people, not sitting back and trying to react to Snake's pushes.
The problem is that Snake now have a weapon in their own arsenal in the fact that Jax got so fed.
Yeah.
So it's no longer the ability for LG just to single-handedly win those side lanes, and again, a lot of responsibility falls down onto PYL. If Flandre ever steps out of position where he overextends, he doesn't have the proper backup, it's up to the Abyssal Voyage to punish that. But how often have we seen that? And is that because Flandre is playing perfectly, or PYL is missing his opportunities?
So far, we've only seen it once in this game, bringing 4 people to track down that Jax. Level 17, 3 full items, and he's sitting on that stopwatch plus the corrupting potion. So he is happy to split push as long as his heart desires, but with all of this presence that Snake have got on the map, they've got control over the bottom side river, over top side river. Mountain Dragon is spawning along with Baron just a few seconds after. It's just a question of Snake picking and choosing what they want while they hunt for picks, and whether or not LGD will fall for them.
It's about stabilizing the map for both teams right now as we set up for Baron. You talk about how Snake are in the driver's seat, that they're hunting for those picks, whereas LG are just trying to maintain their defensive vision control and control over the river.
Visions of Empire starts to set up. Some of these wards are getting cleared out. The side wave has been pushed out
All
bottom,
of the
but
wards
will be coming in. Yeah, all of the wards are now gone. And look at that, PYL. He's sitting on 2 standard wards, no control wards.
No.
His team is trying to support it. SOFM and Snake lead the charge into the mid lane. As that dragon has spawned and Baron's about to spawn in just a moment. If this is a big 5v fight,
Yuki's about to show bottom.
could be scary. But it seems like that's not what we're seeing. Instead, SOFM is just pinging onto that dragon. And now ping's going onto the Baron. LGD could be trying to pull Snake apart and force them to make a bad decision.
But Snake know that Yuki is separated from his team, which is why you saw how confidently SOFM charged. And I love this call. Flandre is sitting in Fog of War. They know that they've cleared out all of this vision, except for that one ward that he's just now revealed, and was threatening the bottom inhibitor, and this is forcing LGD into a very hard call, and they're choosing the Baron.
Yeah, this is a real tough call. Yuki is able to get behind the Baron. That ward allows Flandre to teleport in, and suddenly...
Just push mid.
Yeah, Snake are on the wrong side of this. They've got a minion wave already pushed into the turret. SOFM eats a cleaver and hops over the wall. Here comes LGD to try and defend, but the turret is gone. How does Snake continue to ride this momentum? They're pushing all the way up to the inhibitor.
They've got the hard CC. Yuki's just by himself. They just continue to chase this and throw out the ultimate.
Never move has missed. Jinu gets pulled in, though. His team isn't quite there just yet. Knocked up and locked up.
It's over.
Doesn't have a stopwatch. He flashes back. He's saved at the last second by PYL.
Oh.
Carried in the respite as Yuki goes deep to try to get the assassination onto Light. The 3 flash for him. They manage to get the kill as Flandre gets pulled back, but Flandre is so massive. You would imagine it's a 1-for-1 trade, but you would be wrong because Snake were able to survive the onslaught on the far side and chase LGD back into their base.
It felt like a dance, and hold on, LGD may be able to try to wiggle their way out of this one, but Snake just knew all of the right steps and just stepped all over LGD. They got caught out, had the inside track towards the inhib, and suddenly have pushed down an inhibitor with clear control over Baron.
Suddenly, this game has become even worse for LGD as the inhibitor is broken. 10 kills to 5, about 5,000 gold behind. A lot of that is on that Jax. Doesn't quite have teleport.
But they didn't check the pit, and they are now just about to find this as a control ward. And again, the issue here is that LGD were put between a rock and a hard place. Snake were threatening the bottom wave tower, the dragon, as well as mid lane priority. It forced LGD to walk towards the Baron, which gave access for Snake here. Now, Yuki does make some heroics to try to stall out this team fight, chunk a lot of members, but ultimately all it does is buy his team more time.
And in the end, we get to see Y4. I believe it's a flash attack dissonance onto Light. Yeah, there's the dissonance and a flash attack. Boop, with an auto.
Y4 is trying real hard.
He really is. I mean, we're seeing the same thing out of Yuki as well. These 2 newcomers to the LGD roster are putting in some massive work here. 3 full items on that Talon, plus the Tiamat, sold off the jungle item. We see 4 items in the Void Staff finished off for Y4, so that Orianna should be set to teamfight soon. Can he match the massive damage of that Jax, though?
The stars are not the problem for LGD. It's
Yes.
the support staff. And I don't mean the coaching staff.
Again, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And right now, LGD are showing us that it's in how they position around the map, where that link is. PYL setting up the vision, allowing Snake to be pulled into these, or allowing LGD to be pulled into these rock and a hard place decisions. Now Yuki is on the side once again. He does not have flash, and there is a Guardian Angel ready for light, so that assassination just became a lot harder.
I like the hunting maneuver. LGD are forced to park themselves here because they are contesting for the Baron as well as the super minion wave. So as long as their side lanes don't get pulled out.
He gets pulled in, doesn't have himself a Warmogs, and is still trying to hold on to the sadism. Yuki is behind Snake right now, but decides to just keep on maneuvering around the vision. Finally steps up and shows himself in the lane.
Snake should actually kick Flandre up towards that top side. Now the wave is getting really big and they're deciding to just buy their time over the Baron, but they could be utilizing their top and bottom waves much more effectively to force LGD to just not sit here.
And we did just see the recall completed. Flandre is able to get the flank. Amy is dead without a respite. Teleport not even going to be used by Jinu because he's dead. Y4 goes golden. And this time, of all people who end up costing LGD the fight, it's Jinu recalling in vision of Flandre.
Also, Flandre able to get over the side, look for a beautiful flank right there.
Yeah.
Again, credit to Snake as a team for their ability to deny a lot of vision, and it's about to get worse.
Yeah, chase into the mid lane. Yuki gets pulled forward. Flandre trying to run it down, and Snake, they go back to something tried and true, the team fight style, the chaotic skirmishes, and it's working out for them so far. They just need to finish off this game. Gorgo steps up along with Light in the front. The turret gets absolutely chunked at 35 minutes as Snake leap forward to finish off Yuki in the meanwhile. He's pulled back onto the fountain by PYL, but the Nexus is crumbling, and Snake will take game 1 over LGD.
Bit of a standard play from both Snake and LGD. I did like this look from Snake better. Yes, they're sitting currently 3-3 right now. A lot of that going to trying to play these bizarre funnel compositions. But when it's back to basics, when it's bringing on a new marksman like Light into that position, Snake just looks so much more dominant, so much more controlled in their decision making.
Perhaps if they show us consistency with this style, we can chalk up the first few weeks of the split to Snake experimenting with the new meta to expand amongst their potential playbook repertoire of opportunities. But take a look at that. LGD running such a simple, smart game for 23 minutes. All they had to do was not team fight, and all Snake had to do was team fight.
And you could see that Yuki tried to do his hardest, Y4 as well, but it just wasn't enough. Now, the damage obviously way skewed towards Y4. I thought he did phenomenal on the Orianna. It makes sense for the nature of the champion because she's about in and out, a lot of poke, a lot of sustained damage coming down. But Yuki does need a lot of credit. Trying to hide into the back lines, trying to find the assassination. You know, there were bright spots for LGD, but again, like you said, it's just about the weakest link in the chain, and unfortunately that is still the support staff for LGD, the Amy's and the PYLs.
Well, now it's time for our analysts to get ready to go ahead and break down that Game 1 victory by Snake over LGD.
We're not going to get ready, Dom. We are ready to break down this match because it started with LG throwing out a unique composition. We had the Kindred, Talon, as well as Orianna in the bottom lane. It worked well to start, but Snake were able to pull back the match and actually won the game itself.
Yeah, and that's why I would say immediately congratulations to UDJ, just because the squad has never done this before. First 14 minutes of the game was so clean, being able to take the bottom lane tower that quickly, moving towards Rift Herald as a unit, literally 5 men on it, with Mundo as the insurance policy, just so they knew if they were to get challenged, they would be able to push them back. Everything up until the 14-minute mark was great, and then of course the next battle station was going to be around Baron. You talked about the picks because it's important. There's no immediate, like, boom, start the fight, no primary engage point for the team, so they had to play smart around it because you don't have yourself no Rakan. You don't have no Malphite, though, you know, they made it very clear at the beginning video that you might want to pick yourself a Malphite, and this is what happened.
Well, remember at the start of this fight, SFM's already dead, so this looks good for LGD. And then a big hero play comes out of Flandre. He'll leap back in, he'll be able to kill Amy before he can use his ultimate and lock him down with a stun on top of it.
It's great, and it's mostly off the fact that Jinu's not there to basically turn on them. It's how fast the fight can turn out like this. And it's frustration from LGD's point of view because they can't stick a fight. They moved away from the Baron buff because that was an excellent ulti coming out of Orianna, but they can't stick, and that's the ultimate worry. How you play that out is you have to commit to the Baron a little bit longer, Orianna got a fantastic ultimate, and Sejuani is no longer a part of the fight. Stick on the Baron. Stick on towards it until about 4K because they don't have a smite, and they're going to get desperate and jump on towards you. But if you chase them down like that, you will find nothing good will come of it. Maybe you'll find a pick or two, but you'll get situations like that where it's very difficult to find another member. And even though this is the worst case scenario where, honestly, Flandre went off, in other cases, it'll turn into a stalemate. The Baron goes back to full HP, and you'll have to rehash that play again. So LGD, honestly, coming out of that situation, just have to double down on the Baron.
Still a lot of credit going Snake's direction. They're able to turn the match because it was very clean coming out from LGD for the first 14 odd minutes. Snake were able to turn it around, and after that Baron play, they had firm control of the match. Flandre started to split push on the top side of the map. He took 2 turrets for the team, did die to the collapse that came out from LGD, but with the rest of Baron, they picked up a nice lead for themselves. And although we're being repelled in some of the team fights by LGD, they just pushed through towards the base and were able to take the match.
Yeah, and that's just pure experience from Snake's side of things. If they find themselves behind, they've been together for quite some time. Only players that haven't been with the roster for a little bit. You can say the bottom side of the map, but you can see how the fights are being played out, dictated by SOFM and Flandre in the top side of the map. There's a lot of experience on that side. And so team fights were superb from them. They saw the weakness on the side of LGD, and they were able to take advantage of it. So kudos to them going into game 2. They can just play towards that and say that we'll fix the first 14 minutes and be a lot more competitive so we don't have to find ourselves in that situation.
Well, we'll have to see if they do fix that, but I want your thoughts on the changes that Snake have made. Bringing in Light now as their bottom lane player, taking off their secondary support of Houdier, and now SFM no longer being the player that gets funneled gold. He's more of a supportive tank-like champion such as Sejuani, whereas Light's going to be dealing most of the damage for his team when he picks up the 80 carries that he's known for, as well as the occasional mage. How do you think this change has affected Snake so far? Because they look okay. They still look confident.
Yeah, they still look good. I think a lot of this is the reason why it looks good is because they've been practicing with this. They're not going to put Light onto the big stage without having good enough of scrims. I've been having discussions with analysts, and a lot of it just comes down to there are anti-funneling compositions. We've already seen that coming out of the LPL with Camille jungle, Lulu Zoe mid lane, just anything that has skirmish potential with the 2v2. So you can track down the funnel compositions, and so it's not as effective as it was in week 2. And so, and of course, I've already made a mention that the game is moving towards a direction that is nerfing out funneling comps. So if teams are getting comfortable against it, if the game is moving away from that composition, it's nice that Snake are starting this now because they don't want to move into that a little bit too late into the split.
Yeah, good first step coming out from Snake, especially when they move towards the next intra-conference where they would have to solidify their playstyle a little bit more to try and take a playoff spot. For the side of LGD, they did experiment quite heavily as well going into this match. I mean, new players coming in for the squad, and they have been rotating roster throughout the split. This seems to be the roster that they're trying to stick with. Waifu on the bottom lane picking up Orianna was an interesting pick because we haven't seen Orianna much during the current meta, but it's always a champion that can shine thanks to the huge impact of the ultimate, but was also a champion that got hit in the shielding support nerfs recently.
And I like the fact that they gave this buff to her because a lot of the supports that got nerfed were the Karma, Lulu's, anything that gave you the shield just got nerfed. Understandably so, but the one person that got hit the hardest was the Orianna, so now being buffed to her W, her command dissonance, from 9 seconds to 7 seconds means that, I mean, you're not maxing it first anyways. You're maxing your Q first. So that gives you 2 seconds more of an opening so you can use your QW combination in the mid lane, or in this case, the bottom side of the map. Means that you saw how this game rolled out for her. She had push potential frequently. She was trading very well. 9-minute tower in the bottom side of the map was due in part to Orianna and Tom Kench having sole dominance in the lane.
Do you feel like that's something that's only going to be able to be paired up with the likes of a Talon or a Kindred, someone else who has sustained damage? Because she's more of a burst-heavy mage, although she does have some sustained damage.
She has everything, dog. That's what makes Orianna great. Burst, but also consistent push. So her Q is the biggest focus on the bottom side of the map. So I think you can pair her up with anything as long as it has strong push as well with it.
Well, we saw changes coming out from Snake as well as LGD experimenting with their champions of choice in the first match. But that was just the first match of the best of 3 series. We're going to go into a very quick break. We'll be back with game 2 just a bit.
请重庆的召唤师们继续带给Snake力量，雄起！